don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna bring all these books. Like, the books that I choose as a Korean Canadian woman would be different. Everything gets sandy. Like, your book will get sandy, everything gets sandy. Like I said, Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Youna, and today we're going to be doing the Booktube newbie tag. I kind of forgot that this tag existed, and I came across one the other day, and I figured that I should probably do it. I feel like it's sort of a rite of initiation. I'm really excited to do this tag because I feel like back in the day, I just remember watching a lot of people's tags. Like, I really enjoyed watching Joel from Fictional Fate's Booktube newbie tag, and I remember Read with Cindy's as well. So I just like looked up the Booktube newbie tag on Google. Like, I hope this is the right one. Some of the questions kind of overlap, so I think I might just like combine them. So question 1 is, why did you start this channel? I have always been kind of interested in making a Booktube channel. It's probably been about 3 years or so since the thought sort of first occurred to me. And then I think when quarantine happened, so I guess like in 2020, I really wanted to make one, but it just like took me a while. I was kind of shy, a little bit like scared about putting myself out there, so I just kept delaying it. And then this year I moved to Ontario in Canada, and Ontario went into like a lockdown in January, like December and January, and that was kind of when I was bored out of my mind and watching a lot of Booktube videos, and I decided to make my channel. I feel like in undergrad, in university, I feel like university kills reading. In a way it did for me too. I was like a sociology major, so lots of readings, like articles, long articles, and I didn't have time to read for fun anymore. Whereas in high school I was always reading for fun. I had so much time in high school. So in university I didn't read as much. I would like binge read during all of my breaks. Like summer I'd read like 30 books, and then winter break I'd read like 20 books all in one go, because I knew I wouldn't have time during the school year. One of the thoughts behind me making a Booktube channel was strongly sort of motivated by wanting to keep myself accountable in reading. Not that reading is like work to me, but I love reading, and I feel like it's so easy for me to make excuses to just not read. I'll like prioritize my schoolwork or work or just other things in general. So I wanted to sort of make a Booktube channel to keep myself reading, if that makes sense. Question number 2 is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? And question number 3 is kind of similar. What are you most excited for about this new channel? So for me, well, one, I feel like everyone does this. Like, I want to review books and talk about books and interact with other booktubers and just other people out there who would comment on videos and stuff. But I also really was inspired by, I guess, like Read with Cindy, and I feel like lately I've seen a lot of Asian authors and books inspired by Asian stories being published. I think it's probably a result of all of the anti-Asian hate movements that were happening like mid last year, and that's great. It's amazing. Like, I never really saw books by Asian authors or Asian stories growing up. Like in high school, there was nothing, like nothing. I never encountered a book with like an Asian protagonist. So for me, I feel like when I first encountered Read with Cindy, she was the first Asian booktuber that I ever encountered on here. That really inspired me, and it also pointed out to me the glaring sort of gap in Booktube. Like, Booktube is not very diverse, and I kind of wanted to, I don't know, offer myself up to diversify Booktube too. And I think I have something to offer. Like, I think realistically, the books that I choose as a Korean Canadian woman would be different from someone that identifies differently than me. And I would like to make sort of a safe space on here for anyone that identifies similarly to me or wants to learn about other types of books out there too. Why do I love reading? Okay, so I grew up reading all the time. Like, I was that kid where I would like have a book wherever I went. And I remember my mom, she would tell me like I don't know if you guys had this thing, but my mom always said you're not allowed to read in the car because your eyes will get bad. I never really understood it, but I think it's because like, oh, the car is like shaking, right? So I would like have my book in the car and I would only read during stoplights. And I remember my mom just like thought I was crazy. But yeah, I was like that kid. I was always reading and like bringing a book everywhere, and I would not go hang out with friends. I would just stay home and read instead, to the point that like my parents were concerned. They were like, why is she always reading? Like, but I genuinely just loved it. I loved immersing myself in different worlds. I feel like I like to learn through the stories of other people rather than just like learning at face value, like someone telling me, oh, this is how you do things. I like learning through story formats, and that's probably why I really liked history in school as well. I love the escapism of reading. I think that's what it is for me. I know some people, they read because they want to hear or read something that like relates to them, or that would be, some people like to read self-help or whatever, but I like to read to escape. Like, I love exploring different worlds, and that's why I really like fantasy books, just anything that's like not really something that I can encounter in my life. I think that intrigues me. And yeah, there's just a certain sense of accomplishment. I don't know if that's the right word. Like, you know that feeling you get when you finish a book? Like, I think there's nothing that really compares. It doesn't even come close to finishing like a movie or like a TV show. The withdrawal you get after finishing like a 6-book series or something is crazy, but I love it. Like, I like the catharticism of that. I think that's kind of why I specifically like reading and what it does for me. Question 5 is, what book or series got you into reading? I honestly, okay, I know there are like a lot of people out there who have a specific series that got them into reading. I don't remember. I think I just was reading from such a young age. I don't really remember what made me like reading. I just remember always reading. Like, I grew up reading, I guess like if we're talking childhood books that I read, I was reading like the Magic Treehouse series. I remember reading like Cornelia Funk books, like Dragon Rider, Inkheart, those ones when I was younger. I know a lot of people read the Harry Potter books as sort of their entry into reading, but that actually wasn't the case for me. I read the Harry Potter books a little bit later. I read them when I was in maybe like grade 5 or so, but I was like reading since forever. Yeah, so I don't really remember, but I will say I think a series that really had an impact on me though was the Lord of the Rings series. And this is kind of odd, but I feel like Lord of the Rings movies really impacted my love for reading. I grew up watching the Lord of the Rings. It was just something I really, really loved. Like, I just love the world. I feel like watching the Lord of the Rings as a kid made me really love fantasy as a genre in general, whether it be TV, movies, or books. And I think that pushed me into picking up more fantasy books. So I would say like, yeah, the Lord of the Rings. And I've read the books as well, like once I got older and I could like digest, because those books are pretty dense and kind of difficult to read as for a young person. But yeah, I think reading those books really impacted the way I read and the types of books I read, or reading and watching those movies. So I feel like there's always this tension between, oh, the movies are better, the books are better. But in this specific case, the Lord of the Rings, the movies, I think were the first thing that sparked an interest in fantasy for me. Okay, so question number 6 is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? Ooh, I would love to ask fellow booktubers sort of how they balance reading with their like regular lives, whether they're a student or working, because I mean, so one of the goals for me in starting Booktube was so that I could figure out how to balance reading as a hobby with my life. Like, I'm a student right now, and one day I'll be working too, and I just want to have that habit there. I would love to get tips on that from fellow booktubers as well. Another thing is, I would love to get tips on editing. It's been a struggle. Like, I've never edited anything before. My first video that I did, so the video before this one, took me a while. Like, very much trial and error. And I've been watching like a bunch of other booktubers and I'm just like in awe of their editing. So I think the second thing I would want to ask is, how do you edit? How do you get good at editing? What are like the tips and tricks? Those are probably the 2 biggest questions I have. Next is, what challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? So I thought about this a lot in deciding whether I should do Booktube or not. I just thought about the pros and cons of doing this, and a big con for me was I was worried that starting a Booktube channel would make me dislike reading. But everyone gets into reading slumps, and I was scared that having a Booktube channel would make me accountable in a way that would make reading feel like work. I can foresee that happening to me. I do think the major challenge of starting a Booktube channel is how to get over the slumps of reading that I think will inevitably happen if you're reading for YouTube, if that makes sense. Like, on one hand, I think it's great because it'll keep me reading, right? Like, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep myself accountable and read. But on the other hand, I think it could start to feel like reading is work. I guess my question, like, I don't have an answer for this, but the challenge would be, how do you get over those stages, right? And I don't think that's like necessarily a con that's limited to Booktube, because you will probably get reading slumps whether or not you are on Booktube. You know, you might just be busy in life or whatever and have a reading slump, and it's just, how do you get over that, right? I think that's just like a never-ending question for any reader out there, and definitely a question that I have, and I'm hoping I can figure out how to overcome on here. Number 8 is, when did you start reading? Like I said, I don't really remember. Okay, I have like a really early memory of me going to the library with my mom and us just like throwing books into a basket. I'm pretty sure I was maybe like 4 or 5, and I was already like so keen to be at the library. I have memories in like grade 2 or 3. In the summers, I would go to the library, and our local library had these like reading challenges that you can do in the summer, where depending on how many books you read, you like get a medal or something. And I remember always participating in those. My memories of childhood, and specifically summer, are me and my mom, and my family, like my siblings and I, we would like go to the library and just get like a large bag of books and just like haul them home. Read. I just have like a stack of books beside me, and just like read one, that one's done, read the next one. Like, I just do that all day, every day. And then back to the library, return the books, and then get another huge like bag of books. I mean, I feel like I kind of went on a tangent, but I don't really remember like when I started. I remember always reading though, random books. I remember reading like the Pony Pal books, Magic Treehouse, like I said. I do think there was a bit of a gap there when I started middle school. Like, I remember middle school, like grade 6-ish, I kind of like had a bit of a lull, I think, in reading, and I think the slump sort of ended when I read The Hunger Games. I remember that, like, I really enjoyed The Hunger Games, and that was kind of like when the door opened for me to the world of YA. And it's kind of funny though, because it's not like I really read YA dystopian anymore, but like YA, the door opened for YA, and that's when I discovered like YA fantasy books, like fantasy romance books and stuff like that. So I guess that's another sort of beginning for me in terms of reading. Number 9 is, where do you read? I mean, I will read anywhere. I like to read on the couch, but sometimes I get really tired of sitting. like does that make me sound really lazy? Sometimes, I don't know, like something about sitting like hurts, and like that's probably just a testament to the state of my back. Like, I need to go to physio or something. But I will start reading on the couch, and then I will migrate to my bed. I feel like during the day I will try to stay on the couch, because if I go to my bed during the day, I will 100% like end up napping, which I try to prevent, you know. But at night, a lot of the times I'll end up reading on my bed. Like, I'll just lie down on my bed with a light on or something, like right before I sleep, so that's just easy for me. I'll just like close my book. I'll literally like sleep with my book on my bed. In the summertime, I do really like to go read outside. I like taking a picnic blanket or something. I like reading at the beach, but also the only issue is, like, I think I tend to like reading more on grassy areas rather than the beach, because if you read at the beach, you know this, if you read at the beach, everything gets sandy. Like, your book will get sandy, everything is sandy. I mean, I do read at the beach, I do like to do that, but I feel like more often than not, I'll just find like a park and lie down there and read, just because I feel like, I don't know, I really care about the state of my book. Like, I don't like it when my books get dirty. So yeah, like, unless I'm using like a Kindle or something, I feel like usually if I have an actual physical book, I will try to read at like a park. Number 10 is, what kind of books do you like to read? I guess I kind of answered this question already, and that's, I really love Fantasy. That's like my thing. I know it's not everyone's thing, but I love fantasy books. Once again, I'm 100% certain that my interest in fantasy was sparked by me watching The Lord of the Rings when I was a child so often. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I watched The Lord of the Rings over and over again as a kid. I don't really know why. I just think it really fascinated me. Like, the first time I watched it, I was like, this is amazing. And I just like kept watching it. I still watch them. Like, every year I'll marathon them. Anyway, I really do love fantasy, and specifically, like, I mean, I like the entire genre, but I really like YA fantasy. I don't know, I think there's something really charming about coming of age stories within fantasy worlds because the stakes are always super high, you know, like a kingdom is about to fall, or you're a lost princess, or like you used to have magic, like something like that, right? I love high stakes, and I think fantasy delivers that like no other. I mean, okay, that's debatable, but like to me. So that's kind of what I like. I will read like dystopian here and there, and like paranormal, like urban fantasy. I guess I didn't specify. I tend to like more high fantasy. I don't actually tend to read contemporary fiction, contemporary romance. Like, that's not really my thing. I think it's more like the setting. I don't really enjoy reading anything that's set in the contemporary world, because to me, I read for escapism, and it doesn't interest me when I'm learning about a world that I already know about. I think for me, a big part of reading is I really enjoy learning about a new world. I love to see how an author develops their world, like the world building in a book, which is like kind of funny because I know some people hate that. Like, they think it's too wordy and it's like hard to get used to a new world, but for me, I love it. It's like my bread and butter. I love reading like, oh, what are like the politics in this world? What are the rules? So that's like my thing. Number 11, and it says in brackets, sometimes done. So like maybe this question isn't always included, but it says, what does your book collection look like? And I want to address this because like, I'm so sad because I moved to Ontario in September. So I'm from Vancouver, and I moved to Ontario, and I had to leave all my books behind. I had to leave them all behind. They're currently all sadly in storage. Like, it breaks my heart that they're just like down there in the dark. But yeah, my sister was kind enough to let me use her storage locker where she lives, and she let me like store like boxes and boxes of books in her storage. And it's so sad because actually there are a lot of books there that I haven't read yet. I couldn't bring them with me because like the weight allowance, like I couldn't bring much. I brought some of my books with me, and then, well, most of the books I have here I bought here, which is bad because I'm hoping to return to Vancouver eventually, and I don't know how I'm gonna bring all these books. Like, it's like a problem, but I decided to just, you know, live in the moment because this is like my thing. This is what I like to do. This is what brings me joy. Yeah, I mean, my books, I feel like you can already kind of tell it's like fantasy, except for like these two, because I was trying to be adventurous and try contemporary. I feel like I really like fantasy with like a little bit of romance in there, because I feel like romance always makes the stakes higher in fantasy, you know? I'm trying to delve more into like adult high fantasy as well. I really want to try reading Brandon Sanderson books, but anyway, that's a tangent. I feel like my books all kind of look like this. They look kind of whimsical and magical. My sister always makes fun of me because her book, like, she's like a contemporary reader, fiction, self-help, that kind of thing, and like her books are always like really pretty and like colorful, pastel colored, right? And then my books are like dark blues, black, right? It's actually not too bad here, but like I feel like usually my books all just look like this section. Yeah, I have a lot of long series. Back at home I have the Lord of the Rings series. I have like the Throne of Glass. Like, I love Sarah J Maas. I have like all her stuff. I have Cassandra Clare Mortal Instruments from way back when. I just have like a bunch of like long series. So yeah, that's kind of like what my book collection looks like. I hope one day I can show you guys all the books that I have in the future. One day when I'm able to move back to Vancouver and like have a place there, I'll be able to open up my boxes and show you my books. It actually makes me so sad thinking about my sad books down in the basement of a storage room. So sad. But yeah, that's what my book collection looks like. Very magical, fantastical kind of vibes. So that's the end of the questions for the Booktube newbie tag. That was really fun, actually. I feel like I talked about a lot of random things. Like I think I went on a lot of tangents, but I hope that that was entertaining. And if you related to anything I said, please comment down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon in my next video. Bye!